I'd like to call to order, please, the Ordinance Review Committee. It is Tuesday, May 27th at 6 o'clock. We are in the Harvey Hearing Room. We are on Zoom webinar. The meeting number is 861-5839-4217 and the passcode is 019034. We are also being taped by WCAT. I'll do a roll call. Karen Chavez, myself here. Hannah Belcher.
Here.
Denise Quist.
Here.
Caitlin Burrows. Tim Callanan.
Here.
Minnie Crossman.
Here.
Carol Meach.
Here.
Kurt Mala.
Here.
And Shannon Poulos.
Here.
Welcome, everybody. Also present is the council president, Jim Terry, and from precinct 4, Suzanne Schwab, who is the precinct 4 councilor. Tonight, we are having a public comment. At the last meeting where a lot of people were at, I'll just give you just a quickie of what we have talked about. And I think everybody kind of agreed, that was here, everybody that was here, kind of agreed that that's about everything we talked about. We've talked about changing the town council from 9 to 6, precincts to all at large, changing the terms from 4 to 2 years, somehow changing the town council mode of adjusting their salary. Then we just had some wording changes. Tim, Kurt, and Carol were kind enough to do that. We all have those changes, I believe. Grammatical changes and one words, according to Jim Spoleto, who is our town council, said they do not change the format or the meaning of the charter, sentence or paragraph, so we don't have to worry about those, we can just do those. I did receive one email, I believe the council clerk got one too, from Allison Casey Dubois with her opinions. I have passed this around, so everybody has seen it. Tim, did you see it? Okay. Unfortunately, if I had known it only came to me, I would have been called the same.
I didn't understand that either, I thought it came to everybody.
I did too, I misread it.
Yeah, I can make copies, you need a copy?
Well, we can start with public comment. Looks like you're up, Suzanne.
I don't know if this is important, I ran this through some software and there were some for AI, there were some suggestions, and I don't know if they're pertinent for us, but what is the budget process timeline? They suggested that we print that out. In other words, what happens in November and what the deadline is and who's responsible for it and the possible bottlenecks that happens. And so I don't know if we wanna be more explicit about the budget process and when it happens and who's responsible. Also, they suggested that we be more specific about the legal ramifications for enforcement mechanisms. So they thought we should be more clear about what happens. And I don't know, what the consequences are for whether it's attendance or whatever it is. So that's another suggestion. We don't have that currently, I don't think, in our ordinances. So, and not that we have had anyone that does stuff like this, but if you are in non-compliance with state or federal standards, what happens if there is lack of accountability, whether it's ethical standards or whatever, and what do we do with that? And they suggested we have an ethics committee, so if instead of deciding kind of on the spot what happens if there's something that's not ethical, that perhaps we should have a committee to do that. Some kind of external oversight body and a clearer procedural framework. And the other thing is, I mean, this is just an issue that, and this has to do with the town manager. I don't know how you all think about this, but I know the town manager is certainly the major administrative body. But should they be able to hire and fire people without any input from town council? Is that always just up to the manager? Or should the town council have some say about that? I'm talking about major people, whether it be, well, major directors or those that have.
Department heads.
Yeah, department heads. Right now, we have none of that the town manager is responsible for all of it and makes a decision on that, so that's another suggestion. Those are my three. Thanks.
Are you here for public comment?
I can be. This
Why
is
don't
my,
you just tell us your name, please?
yep, Erin Marcellus, do I do precinct 2 or no? Precinct 5.
Okay,
No, I saw a posting on Facebook and then somebody was saying that you guys were gonna be discussing like changing precincts to councilors at large, and that concerned me. Because that, I don't really understand, I'm new to all this,
Okay.
but I feel like then people can lose representation, and I don't support that. That's why I'm here.
would you just, would you have a reason as why you would not support that? I mean, right now, we have a counselor from each one of the 6 precincts, and we have 2 at large. So the precinct counselors are elected by the precinct, and the 2 at large are elected at large through the 6 precincts. So could you?
Yep, because the ones that are elected per the precincts, that means that it's guaranteed that every precinct has a voice. If it does just straight across the board, council at large, there could be precincts that are left out, or it can all be one precinct that is representing all of Winthrop. So I think that each precinct having a voice is really important.
Okay. And again, what was your name?
I'm Erin Barcelos.
Just spell your last name?
Yep, BARCELLOS.
Anybody over there?
On Zoom?
Yeah.
No.
So, does anybody wanna start to talk about anything? We might as well use this time. Maybe we should start with what sounds like the thing that's being talked about the most is the 9 to 6, the precinct 2 at large. And everybody knows how I feel, so I'll let people talk first.
9 to 7.
No, I'm not counting the council president, I'm just
Okay.
saying,
8 to 6, yeah.
sorry.
I'll just start with the touching on, I get the understanding and feeling of not being able to be represented in our town. If you compare size with the head count of councils in other cities and towns, we are well represented if we don't have precincts, just because of the size that we are, 1.62 square miles roughly. And that's why we keep going back to this, because the history of people running, we've had to ask people to run for seats. So it's hard to say that, I mean, I know any counselor that we've had will listen to anybody, no matter what precinct you're in. And they'll fight for our town, no matter what precinct it is. I don't think one would just say, nope, don't wanna listen to you. And I think that's where, that we've brought this up multiple times to try and work for more kind of competition, I would say, or more a way of reducing the amount of seats would help alleviate, reaching out and saying, hey, run, or would you like to, or can you? It's not a lot of people stepping up to do it over the years. I mean, we're talking decades. this has been going on now. So, and this is why it keeps coming up, I believe. I like hearing different sides of it, those for it, those against it. I've run, and it does seem like only certain areas there is some kind of competition. But that's also sad to hear, that we can't get other precincts, people to step up and wanna run. So, and I know that's why this keeps popping up and reducing the head count. I think it's fair to bring it up again. Some people don't understand why we keep bringing it up. But I mean, just you look at our last election, it's there. You have one person running is not truly representative either. So you might have, you know, I would personally would like to see less headcount on the council. And if it were at large, you still are representing the town. And it could be a different way. I know, speaking of how you do the, counts, potentially, highest number all the way down, and that's who gets in. If you do you got 10 people running, and there's different ways of doing that. I just think it can't hurt to try it, because you can always change it back if it's not working. And that's the intent of this every 5 years, looking it over again. If we find it fails epically, then we get to fix it and change it back to another way. So.
Joe?
Yeah, there's been a lot of talk in the town about, the shrinking the number of counselors or we're starting to hear go back to town meeting as well, right? So I think shrinking the number of counselors and going at large, I'm hoping to be a bigger pool. And I also think that what would be helpful is that, we have more counselors having meetings in precincts too, I don't know how we do that, but it's something certainly to think about, since there's representation that way. We certainly need more people getting into the mix, and by having a lesser number, I think we can do that. These are all recommendations that go forward to the public on the ballot, so it's not that we're making decisions, so just opportunities.
Do you wanna catch your breath and I'll come back to you?
Are we going around the table?
Yeah.
Okay, I need the topic, I assume.
Whether we reduce the amount of counselors and do we stay with precincts or at large?
Come back to me.
Okay, that's what I thought. Any?
I would really like to explore what Councilor Belcher and President Lettieri brought up about wards. I think that would kind of address both issues, reducing the number on the council and still having representation just in a larger number. As I brought up before, being in the Highlands, my neighborhood literally is broken up into 3 different sections, and I can throw a rock at all 3 of them. So I can be represented by 3 different councilors, and I do think there is some merit to the ward system that the councils were talking about. So I'd like to hear a little bit more about that and maybe explore that a little bit more, because I think it addresses both what people are saying about losing representation, but also reducing the size of the council. I think streamlining the council to make it more effective would be useful. I think it's easier with less number of people to have dialogue and discourse and discussion, and I just think it would streamline operations in the town to bring that number down a little bit and also cover a lot of the different points that Kurt made, so it's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I echo a lot of what everyone else said, but I think that that what I tend to hear is that when there is competition in a particular precinct, people will say, if there's 3 or 4 candidates, you'll hear people say, oh, someone has to drop out because if you're split the vote, and I get that, but at the same time, it's unfortunate that we have people that are in fact willing to step up and contribute and volunteer a ton of time, that sort of, may elect or not to opt out of that process because they feel like it could divide the vote in any one precinct. And so I think we've seen, as people know, over decades and decades, that we just don't get a lot of people to run. So for somebody to drop out because they feel like they're splitting a vote, I think is unfortunate. And I think about our environment, the airport, we're surrounded by ocean, we're a peninsula. Our issues aren't that different, we're all sort of, thinking about the same things, whether it's education or public safety or air quality and flooding and things like that, and everything ultimately comes to the town council anyway to vote on. It's not as if you are voting by precinct. So for me, those are my two primary reasons why I would opt for, because I think that it's two separate issues. There's the number and then there's the precinct versus at large. Those comments are directed at the getting away from the precincts, although I think there definitely could be some merit to the ward system by sort of dividing it, but just by less. And then I think that the number, again, it sort of dovetails into the same things, which is you just don't get a lot of people. And so I think, frankly, I think it can water down, the talent and I think that the counter argument is that people say, well, there's less work to divide. And I think I can't speak to it because I've never been on the council, but I think Hannah and Jim and others that have would say it's probably the same people picking up the work anyway. And so it's not as if you're necessarily dividing up the work amongst more people. So those are the reasons why I'm supportive of a reduced council and more of an at-large, although again, would entertain going from like a precinct to a ward.
That's it. Ward conversation, I do like that, I'd like to hear more about that. The councils at large, I don't feel like someone would necessarily get enough votes for the town to become a council at large and then not have people that they have good relationships with in all sorts of the councils. We're a small town, we're a mile and a half. It's my opinion, is it possible that it could happen? Of course, but I just don't, I don't feel like one precinct would be treated differently if something was brought to their attention. But like he said, we get the opportunity to review this, and if we see that has happened, then that can change it back just as quickly. But I'm still open to hearing more.
I think these are two separate issues, like Shannon mentioned, shrinking the number and then all at large. I think going down to 6 counselors is fine. I don't think it would be an astronomical change in workload for the counselors, especially while we are streamlining subcommittees and things like that. The all at large, I think it's important to also think about not just the counselors representing issues per precinct, but the council itself is a representative of people in different areas of town. Like those are two pieces to it. So I like the ward idea. Like if you look even at our census data, the census tracts show how different like parts of precinct 6 on the beach are from parts of precinct 2. So there are socioeconomic, lifestyle, age, race, all these different factors about the people who live in each precinct, which doesn't mean that if somebody from precinct 1 comes to me, I'm gonna ignore them. But they may come from a different background or have a different neighborhood style. So I think it's a double thing. It's not just that the areas of town are represented, it's that the people in the areas of town are represented on the council. It's like bi-directional. So I think wards would kind of split the difference on this and give representation and give a chance for everybody. Because it's not just that people don't want to run, that people aren't running. There's a million reasons. We've gone over some like time, money, like childcare, all these other things. We don't know why people don't run. There's no way to ask everybody, why didn't you run, right? So I think that the ward system is a good way to kind of test that out. I'd also be hesitant to do both things at once because then you don't know which worked, right? You don't know if it was because they're all at large or because it's less seats. Maybe they work and you say they both work, but I think this is something you should take one at a time.
What? Question, couldn't we put both of these on the ballot? We could put wards and just 6 councils at large on the ballot too.
I think
We
you
could
have
offer the people both, but
No,
we
you
could
can't, yes, you can.
right, we could offer the people
Yes.
both the different
Yes.
aspects of what they want and try to explain to each what it means and what it is. I'm not personally a ward lover. I don't see the difference in the precincts and the wards. If you're gonna give one person 2 wards, you're just taking one away from the other one. I like the council at large. I think the people are more involved with the council at large, knowing that all the residents are included in everything that they do. I don't think, which is right, I mean, any counselor, it doesn't matter, if I don't like my counselor, I'm gonna go to somebody else anyway. There are 2 council at larges now, you can go 2 now if you want to. I just like the smaller of the counselors. I also think money talks, if we get the smaller of the counselors, we might get the salaries up, which unfortunately does count for a lot of people. So, that's me, but I would kind of look at maybe if we're really getting into this, maybe putting both questions on the ballot.
So one of the reasons that I wanted to hear what everyone else was saying is because when we were in our last meeting, I was quite convinced by everyone's arguments for why we needed to do all at large and reduce the number of counselors. And then in speaking to some people who were quite passionate about doing one or the other or neither, I'm kind of back in the middle of the road. I do think if I was having to choose, I would support reducing the number of counselors and keeping it to wards. Although I do also see the argument for how's it different from precinct. I am also concerned about we're calling it competitiveness, the amount of people who are putting their names in to run for office, but I think that's downstream of other issues, not necessarily an issue of precincts or the number of people on the council. I think it's compensation, I think it's schedule, I think there is just not comprehensive community outreach so I think we're touching the same people over and over again with kind of every opportunity there is to be involved in town government outside of elected officials, and I think we could be doing more to get people who aren't necessarily involved or even know that there are opportunities to be on different committees to try things, and then you build up a roster of people who might then be interested in running for office. So I would be happy to put both on and see what, because it's not up to us ultimately, we're just making suggestions. I'd be happy to put both on and see what the town wants. But if it was up to me and we were experimenting with democracy, I would say, let's reduce the number of councillors but keep wards.
Oh, and then we have
Yep.
another guest if she wants to speak afterwards.
We have a couple of other people on Zoom as well.
So
Okay.
in terms of the size, I know I'm definitely in favor of reducing the number from 8 councillors to 6. One of the reasons that spurred this on too, because like you say, you're new to a lot of this, is 78% of the elections we've had since 2005 have been unopposed. And if you look even at this election, we have uncontested seats right now. And we have precincts that haven't polled papers at all, we have school committee that don't have the adequate number of school committee members. I don't think it's money, even though, because paying somebody money doesn't mean you're gonna get the right person, it just means you're gonna get somebody that wants the money. I think people have done this, this was a volunteer job up until 20 years ago, now it's basically a volunteer job, but a little bit. I think the money is an incentive, but I don't know if the incentive's for the right reasons. I'm not crazy about the wards, but I think if you do consider wards, the thought process, one of the thought processes, what reducing the number is reducing the number of elections every cycle, right? So right now, there's 5 elections every cycle, there's 1 at large, there's 3 precincts, and there's a council president, so you have trouble filling those 5 seats. If you went to wards, I think, I would suggest the only thing that would make sense would be to have 2 wards. Because if you have 3 wards, now it's gonna be hard to say who's on the cycle, if you're gonna do a cycle. And if you go to 2-year terms, which is another point, now you're still having the same number of elections or more every 2 years. I mean, that's, the goal is to get less seats available so there's more competition. So if you did think of wards, I think it should be 2 wards, 4 at large, and a council president. Because this way you could have 1 ward and 2 at large up every
2 years and then another ward. If you have 3 wards, then it's hard to figure out how you're gonna do that. If you have 3 wards and 3 at large, it would be hard to figure out how you're gonna do that to make it equitable. You know, I think the goal is not only to reduce the number of seats, because I do think it's better, but it's also to reduce the number of elections, of elected bodies that are gonna be up every 2 years or 4 years or whatever it is. You know, as far as, I did also talk to Jim about, because there was a thought, he had a thought, like, this might be, even reducing from 9 to 7 might be too much of a change for a charter. Like, obviously, if everybody here decided to go back to town meeting, that's not something we could do. We'd have to go out and get
Right.
4,000 signatures and start the whole process over. Jim had a question, is this something of that caliber? Now, texting him now back and forth, he feels it is not. He thinks it's something that can be done within the charter. We just have to confirm that. But I 100% agree that I think there's too many council positions right now. I think the pay is definitely something that should be looked at. We're never going to be able to pay like a Revere type $25,000 or something like that. We don't want to get into benefits. I think that's a big no-no and a big
Which
cost.
Jim Cibolletto was looking into for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's found that out yet.
Right. But I think, you know, the wards are kind of like splitting the baby there and saying, okay, let's try to make everybody, appease everybody a little bit. But I think it would be good to have 2 wards instead of 3. I mean, the thought is, okay, 6 precincts, put them into 2, you have 3, but then that kind of messes up the election cycle.
Kathleen?
Oh, hi, sorry, I apologize, I came in a little unprepared with my sister. I was with a promenade and everything with the prom tonight. So I apologize that I don't know exactly what you were talking about, but I'm getting the gist. For me, our council is far too large. And again, I apologize if I'm not speaking exactly with germane to the subject, but I think I'm gonna speak enough. Our council is far too large. We're less than 2 square miles. To think that we need precinct or ward councilors is absolutely absurd. We're not Framingham, we're not West Bar, we're not like huge communities, we don't need that. For me, we are absolutely hurting ourselves as a democracy by having precincts when we are stymied by the amount of people that can, understandably, which is great, apply themselves and be able to run. We don't need that. We need people in this community that love our community, care about our community, whether we agree or disagree with them, to run for office. So to say we need precincts or wards that we're discussing is silly. We don't need that. We need people to run for office that love our community, are gonna do the due diligence that they need. And if you're looking for money to do that, you're not getting that in Winthrop. And if you think that you're gonna get that in Winthrop, then you actually have a really bad fundamental understanding of Winthrop. We don't have the money for that. We literally just went to our taxpayers and said, we need money for a firehouse, which again, praise the Lord that we did that. And, you know, for our school. So this idea that, I mean, I don't know, again, and I didn't hear this before. I guess someone said benefits. And I don't know the context of that, so I'm not trying to be a jerk, but that's actually laughable. If you wanna run, you know, for office and be here, you're doing it for one reason. Because you love this community and you have the time to put forth in this community. If you're looking for money or benefits, go somewhere else. That's not happening here. We don't have that money. We don't have it. But we are absolutely in a huge crisis right now in this community when it comes to electing people because of the precincts and what we have. We have wonderful people that want to step up, but they can't if they don't live in a certain precinct. So again, for me, again, and I apologize again, I didn't hear the context of the whole communication. But let's get back to what Winthrop's about. And I know it's bad to say this. Let's get back to the back days of Winthrop. we love this community, we care about this community. It's not about money, it's not about benefits, it's about giving to our community and caring about our community and giving what you can. And if you can give in certain ways, you can give. If you can't give in certain ways, that's okay too. But we are absolutely, I'm trying to think of the right appropriate word, hurting ourselves with precincts. Because if you don't live in a certain precinct, you can't run or whatever. Like, let's actually get people to these tables, like Jim Lettieri has done for over 3 decades in our community. Let's get people to the table that actually want to serve our community. Not agendas, not anything else. Serve our community and serve all of our residents. If we think that the point can't be represented, or the Highlands can't be represented by a certain person, then you have not been paying attention to Winthrop. Because that's not happening. That's not happening anyways. Let's get people in our town that have the time to run and to serve. But this idea of precincts, let alone wards, is absolutely silly. Thank you.
So I think just a point of clarification on the benefits, I don't think anyone asked for it. I thought it was if you got to a certain
That's why,
salary
yeah.
level,
Jim
you
Sibley
could
was
kick
looking,
in.
yeah.
So just,
I apologize. I didn't hear
that's,
that.
I figured I would just
Right.
cause
No,
I think
thank
there's like a salary number that then like salaries, benefits kick
Then
in.
you have
Yeah.
to.
And so that was like the only reason why the
20
benefits came up,
hours.
I don't think, yeah,
If you make 20 hours,
yeah,
that's the entire.
No, thank you again, and I didn't hear that, I apologize.
And that's, how do you determine how many hours a council?
Right, I was just gonna say, there's gotta also be a
But there was,
dollar amount.
there's a dollar amount though
There's
too,
a
and
dollar
Jim
amount.
Cipolletta was looking into that for us. And again, I didn't hear from him today, so I
Yeah,
can't,
it's gonna be way over $436 a month.
so.
Yeah, I think the benefits came up because we did not wanna go anywhere near
Right, we wanna
making
stay
it
away
a
from that.
benefits eligible position, and just my thought on the money, and like we've talked about this increasing the pay is not to make it so that people are like, oh, that's a good way for me to make money. No matter how much we pay, it is not a good way to make money. Like, it's a lot of work, it's never gonna be commensurate with the time you spend. But paying a stipend could make your life able to shift so that you can give the time and the energy. I think that's more what the money can be. I don't think it's ever gonna be a lucrative opportunity. We, like you said, we don't have the money to make it like that.
And I guess that's my point, Council Vice President, is we are literally going to our community, asking for money, again, for overrides and a firehouse and different things. We do not have the money to give extra, and I'm not saying it's not deserving. We don't have the money to give. So to me, it's not even a discussion point. We don't have the money. So it's literally, again, I don't even know why it's being discussed. We don't have the money. If we're gonna not ask for overrides and we're not gonna ask to help, build a firehouse, then that's great. To actually go back to a taxpayer and say, we're asking for X, Y, and Z, and then, oh, by the way, these elected positions that people are volunteering to get on the ballot for whatever their reasons are, we don't have the money. So to me, it's not a discussion point, it's null and void. We don't have the money. Like, it's simple math, we don't have the money. So to me, it's not even a discussion, we don't have the money. We don't have it.
Right, and that's probably why it hasn't been updated in the 20 years, right? We've never had extra cash for it.
Well, we've never discussed the salaries anyways, I think it was only discussed once. Yeah, did you say there's somebody on Zoom? Yeah.
We have 5 folks on Zoom now, so I didn't know if we wanted to.
I don't do any other hands up.
No, but if anybody would like to make public comment who's on Zoom, please raise your hand and then I can allow you to speak.
Karen, just one thing
Go.
about the, I know that we've been talking about the precincts in terms of representation based on various attributes, if you will. I think that it's a two-way street, right? Because I think that there's an argument against doing away with precincts because we want to make sure that there's fair representation. But I think for those of us that either join meetings, whether it's in person or on Zoom or watching on WCT or there's not a lot of people that are participating in our town government. So at some point people have to take responsibility for themselves to participate. Go to the website. The calendar's there. I start Sunday night every week I mean, shame on me for being such a dork, but every Sunday night, I go on and I know what meetings are there and I know where they are and I know what time and I know, if they're Zoom and depending on my schedule adjust. And so I don't know what this idea of we need to do more, first of all, who's we and what is the more? It's the town of Winthrop's website. Just go on and find out what the meeting schedule is and participate. So I'd actually just love to understand a little bit more for those that feel that way, particularly the person that sent the public comment. What does that mean? Like I really don't know what it is because no one is stopping anyone from walking in any door or logging into a Zoom or watching something on WCT, writing an email. No one's stopping anybody.
So Evan's a perfect example, right? She's been, I don't know how long you've been here, so.
I've lived in Winthrop for 2.5, sorry, am I allowed to speak?
No, but she's just, so somebody that's lived in with the opportunity's there. And to me, it gets back to just simple civics that people just aren't learned that and how to give back to communities. And maybe it's something that it's hard to do with adults more, that you start in the schools and have a civics class to understand what it's like to give back to the town. I think the other problem with the whole thing getting people to run is technology. It's just nobody wants to deal with the crap that they have to go through.
It's 5 months till the next election. And as far as advertising the election, the town clerk's office, the assistant town clerk, certainly has had this out there long before the papers, long before you could even pull your papers. She had a good size notice of what you could pull papers for, when you could pull papers. And then if you look at the town website, the town manager's office also was putting it out almost every week in his blog. And the town clerk's website is updated, what's going on. And I've seen now several Facebook pages that are also echoing, as far as the election is concerned. So it's out there. I mean, people, people say, well, we don't see it. Well, I mean, I'm not a computer person, but yet I see all these things.
Did you wanna say something? I thought Erin was gonna speak.
Am I-
Go right ahead.
Sorry. I can speak to, I don't know your name, I'm so sorry.
Shannon.
So yeah, I've lived here for 2.5 years. I did not know anybody until a month ago. And an incident happened, I just started talking to people. Now I know a whole bunch of people. I've gone to 2 council meetings, I've gone to a bunch of stuff, right? And I never thought that I would actually care about any of this, right? And the reason why I care is there is so much greatness in this community, but there's also not on the other side. And there's a lot of, I heard a lot of people saying, going back to a certain way, historically, people haven't run. I think there may be some stuff from before I was here, so I'm not gonna step into any of that stuff. But I think there are some barriers to that with people not feeling safe enough to do that in different ways. I'm not saying people are like bragging or anything, but like I think that people are not always feel comfortable sharing their voice. And I think that is a huge problem. And I was off Facebook for a very long time, but Facebook is now, I guess, the way that Winthrop communicates. So the past month I've been back on Facebook. And, a lot of it is great, but a lot of it can be really bad. And for myself, I am trying to create community for myself in the community and try to do things to help people and get to know people. And that's what I would love to see happen. Like even when people disagree, like that's when we sit down and talk. And it just doesn't seem like that is happening as much as it could. And I see that as being something that could happen. and that's what I hope. So I think there's so much to it, and I've only been here for a little while, and I've only been involved in this for a month, so.
Can I just talk about the precincts?
Sure.
I was at the meeting where we discussed the possibility of precincts plus at large. But I'm coming to the feeling that after being a precinct counselor, I like the idea at large. I think that the issues that we have dealt with this year are pretty much non-precinct. Whether it's climate change, it doesn't matter what it is. I mean, I'm spending my time with you all in other places because my little precinct is nothing compared to the issues in other places in the town. Unless I understand that, I don't have my priorities straight. That's my way of thinking about things. So I love the idea of 6 at-large counselors. I think that would bring our community together even more, and I think we ought to seriously consider it.
Well, I like the idea of it going on the ballot, but my own self, I don't see the difference between having 2 wards and 4 at large. I mean, 2 wards, you're gonna split the town in half, Ward 1 and Ward 2, and you're still gonna have 4 at large. For the rest of the town, or the whole town. So, I mean, you don't have to convince me because I like the at large. And I don't think we're a Revere that you need to take the way that it's spread out. You know, you have Point of Pines, then you've got the Elliott Circle area, and then you have West Revere, and you have North Revere, and Winthrop is Winthrop. It's 1.5 square miles. I don't know what the square miles are in Revere, I probably should have looked that up. I don't know. I mean, Revere has 2 representatives, we have 1. You know, again, I'm not gonna dissuade it, you wanna put that on the ballot, it's fine with me, but I can't see the difference between having 6 at large or having 4 at large and 2 wards, because you're still gonna run into, as you said, the 2 wards certainly are gonna be handling 3 of the precincts. So, anyways, but that's how I feel about it. We're not gonna vote on any of this stuff tonight, but it's just, if you guys wanna still look into the wards, please, go right ahead and do it. See if we can get some verbiage, and if we decide we can just put that on the ballot too. Or we'll ask the council if we can put it on the ballot. I mean, we can talk till we're blue in the face. And if it goes to council and the council says, drop dead, that's it, it's over. Okay? Seriously, this is it, and there'll be, we're planning on going to council again, 15th of July. Right? And so we have now until the 15th of July to get all these things straight, and what we send to council, then it's up to the council, it's out of our hands. Right, is there anything else you wanna talk about, any other big thing tonight you wanna talk about? The money angle, again, as Attorney Cipolletta said, the way it's worded right now in the charter, it's archaic, he said it'll take them 4 years to get a raise. And he was gonna rewrite that for us. The other thing, I think everybody has gotten all the other drafts, the 3 that we have. Carol, did anybody have anything to say about any of those, or they like the wording, or we can just go forth with these 3?
I think they all
You were
make
gonna look
sense.
into something about mayor, weren't you? Were you gonna look at something about?
Put some language together about the pros and cons.
Yeah.
I'm also gonna have language about the abandonment. Next week.
What refresh my memory on that one.
We talked about it at the end of last week, the concern that there's not an automatic trigger right now with the abandonment, that it goes on the agenda for the next town council meeting once the threshold for abandonment of a seat has been reached.
Okay.
We wanted to see about putting in language for that.
Okay. Right.
I was thinking too, are we gonna try to put something in about the town councilors not being able to vote on these questions?
I looked at that and it looks like they have to, if you go in,
That was an MGL thing, right?
what was, I forget the now, Kurt and I looked that up, it was in Mass General Law, and I don't remember the number now, but it was sections 9, 10, and 11, and it has to go to the council or to the town meeting.
To like whatever the legislative body
Right,
is.
what was it, 43? Cause Kurt and I did look that up, Denise, unfortunately, and we don't have,
It just makes no sense. I mean, on some of the things with the of
well,
course,
the last time, you have to remember now too, the last ordinance review that we were on, it went to the rules and
Rules and
ordinance,
ordinance,
and
right.
that's where it died.
this doesn't have to, right?
This doesn't have to, right? At least this is gonna get to the council.
That's true, because I mean, the
Well-
council as being council and knowing that the people are gonna vote for this. I think that would have a more positive meaning with just the council, knowing like let the people vote.
Okay.
The council did ultimately vote on all the recommendations, it just sat in rules for a long, long time.
Well, it's set
It set
from,
rules and then it had
September.
comments from the
Right.
councilors that
Right.
were on the OSC,
Right,
that they
right.
didn't vote for
It's
stuff,
too much,
even if it was
right.
passed, there
it
was
went,
definitely
it went from September of
coercion.
22 until September of
Right, it was like a whole
23
year.
before they finally voted to get it on the ballot for 23.
But
It
we
should
did
be-
ultimately vote on every recommendation.
Yeah. So,
It should be similar to the finance commission where the recommendation is made, council takes a week or two to look at it, and
Right.
then basically should be passing it on unless there's something egregious that is.
I think that that's what we talked about, didn't we talk about that we're gonna go to council and the council's gonna be able to look at it. In the meantime, the town clerk can get it off to
Second mistake.
our legal counsel and to the Attorney General, am I right, Denise, am I getting all this right? And then hopefully it'll be back to you that the council can vote on it. And then it might make the ballot, cause you have to have it October 1st or September 30th.
Have it earlier than-
Sooner the, yeah, I mean, I middle of September is even better.
Right.
Because I gotta send it off to them, I don't feel, they work with us really well. I don't
Okay,
think that'll be a long time there, but I just have to get it close enough that I can get the ballot proofed.
okay, alright. So we probably should have a couple of more discussions about a couple of things. I have meetings now scheduled for June 4th, June 12th. And those are the two before our public hearing. Do you wanna meet both nights or you just wanna meet one of those nights? And decide what we're actually gonna talk about? I mean, if you don't think we need to meet both nights, it's fine with
And we're
me.
just meeting now, June 4th, which is next week.
I mean, we can wait till the 12th if we
12th,
want.
right. And
I
have
can't do
more
the
of our
We
own.
can't do the 12th.
I can
Is
do-
everybody
I
gonna
can't
be
do the
available for
fourth.
the 18th for the public hearing?
Yep.
June 18th,
Yes.
okay.
So we meet June 12th, make the decision then.
Well, Shannon said she can't meet on the 12th.
No,
She can do the
we
4th.
went the
Oh, you can't do the
so she
4th.
can do the 12th.
Oh, sorry.
Yep.
Alright, so do you wanna just postpone now again until the 12th?
So no meeting on the fourth?
Yeah, and then,
Don't go around me, I just.
and maybe by then we can, I mean, the big things are the things we really need to concentrate on. People wanna look at the ward, the 2 wards. I don't know, if the only other way you could be able to do
Oh,
it
I'm sorry,
is to,
Karen, I can't do the 4th, I can't do the 5th, I apologize.
no, we're talking about the 12th.
No, I know, I'm just saying, I said I couldn't do
Okay,
it.
that's okay.
I was,
And it would be the 6 o'clock on the
Yeah, right, all our meetings are at 6, okay?
I'll probably be
So
5
do you
minutes
wanna, so is everybody then in consensus, we will not meet on the 4th? Is that okay? Alright, so we'll- I'll have the clerk cancel that for me, please. Okay, and then maybe by the 12th, we can have a little bit of a, not a heated discussion, but a more of a discussion before we meet for the public hearing, and then that'll give us the 24th to really talk about what we wanna get to the council on the 15th Cause we have a question of a meeting on the 7th, am I right? But you're gonna be away, Denise.
Right. The 7th too, I forgot
Seventh
the
is
town
Saturday.
hall, we're not even open
July.
the 7th.
Town hall's not gonna be open on the 7th?
No, cause the
No,
4th is a
'cause-
Friday, so those.
Oh, okay.
Right,
So Karen, does that mean we're gonna try to vote on things on the 24th?
That's
Well,
what we
you
have
know-
scheduled now.
Yeah.
24th should be the time we
we
actually
do the 12th and then the
take
18th,
the votes.
public hearing.
Alright, so then why don't we plan on voting then on the 24th, is that okay with everybody?
I'm gonna be away, so I bet I can do Zoom.
Either that, or you can just send in,
Oh, if
Whatever.
I,
Yeah, just
You
send
can
it
do
out.
that.
Send it
Okay.
in, yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna be away on vacation or
I'm
something.
gonna be on vacation,
Yeah.
Yeah, so why don't you just ahead of time?
Okay.
Get it into Denise or myself, okay, is that okay?
Yep.
And so then we'll definitely have the public hearing on the 18th, the 24th we'll vote. Then try to get everything together and get our stuff to the council by the 15th. Actually, we have to get it to the council by the 10th, am I correct?
Mhm. Yep, in order to get the Thursday, so I can get it on the agenda.
Okay?
Yep.
Gotcha. Anybody have anything? Suzanne, no? That's fine. Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
just make sure there isn't anybody else on Zoom.
Relax, Vinny.
We got 7 minutes before my next meeting.
Okay.
Kathleen has something.
That's what I just said to Vinny.
Oh.
No, nothing on Zoom, so
Okay.
I'll
Kathleen.
second Vinny's motion.
Sorry, Vinny. No, just a question. Is there any way, and you may already do this, is there any way that there can be something put, when you say you're gonna vote on certain things, is there any way that that can be put on, not just an agenda that you're gonna be voting on things? Is there any way it can be put on the town's website that you're gonna be voting on X, Y, and Z? Is there any way that there can be again, I'm not saying like, granular detail, but a detail of, what you'd be voting on, and again, I'm not sure if that's even allowed,
Yeah, there
so
could be a
I'm not trying
summary,
to speak out of turn.
there could be a summary.
I just
Yeah.
wasn't
Yeah,
sure if that
we
was
could, yeah.
allowed.
But if
on
you
the
look
agenda,
too,
could be
if you
summary.
look at the town manager's newsletter, on his newsletter this week, or the last week's newsletter, it did list our meetings, and then it was a link to refer to get directly to our agenda. So they wouldn't even have to search, it's right there to go, but we can ask, you have a Facebook page, don't you, on town clerk? So maybe with the town clerk's office would be kind enough.
What Kathleen meant was, could we put the summary of what we're voting on the agenda?
Yes, Denise, thank you. That's what I was
Right.
asking.
We can-
Summary of the
so
issues, the big issues
We'll
that
know,
we're covering.
the public will know what
The
we're,
public will know, exactly.
what we're considering voting on.
Yeah, because we, for the public hearing, didn't we decide?
We're gonna do that for the public hearing.
For the public
Give a
hearing,
summary.
Rob.
I was just curious.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't see why not, I mean, we
Oh,
said
yeah,
we're
certainly
voting
can
on
be,
the
yeah.
agenda for the town council,
Yeah.
so.
Mhm.
Yeah, because for the public hearing, we talked about the last meeting,
Right.
we're gonna try and get a little bit of a summary
Summary, right.
on the agenda of things we've already talked about, so the people who are coming for the public hearing will be aware
Right,
of what we've been talking about.
Right.
I mean, certainly, they can bring new thoughts, but just so they know, okay?
sounds good.
Anything else? Alright.
Motion adjourned.
Second.